Hey, good evening. Tom Ginn, Elevate Your Profits. I'm going to be bringing in my partner here, Mark Gassert, in a moment, but just want to say, hey, turn around and tag and share with your friends. Tonight's guest, we're really going to dive deep on I, if you ask yourself the question, do you want to pay more or less taxes? Mike's going to share with you ways to save taxes and live tax free. And so we're going to be introducing Mike here in a moment. But I'm going to bring in Mark. Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to live tax free, man. I want to see what my man Mike's going to be talking about tonight. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, knowing Mike and a lot of things out in the financial world, those in the know win, right? It's just only through awareness. But before we
Absolutely.
bring our guest in, I just want to set the purpose of our program, and then you can make a comment as well. Mark and I got together through live streaming workshops, and we have a lot in common. And we just wanted to come together, create this forum called Elevate Your Profits. It's designed for those individuals that have a desire maybe to become an entrepreneur, go into business themselves, or that solopreneur, that entrepreneur out there now, traditional brick and mortar businesses. And our whole goal is to bring influencers in that are talk about how they got to where they're at, the types of successes, what they did to get to where they're at. Um, like tonight, people have very specific expertise that will help you win in business as well. So that's our platform. Mark, any comments there?
No, I think you nailed it. And what Mike is going to talk about is just going to take this to the next level in terms of, dollars and cents. And I'm really curious to see what he's going to share with us.
Wonderful. Well, Mike, hands up. Are you ready to come in? All right. Per
Hey,
contract, what do you do as
hey,
a
man, look at
OMN?
that. Look, he is here. The man is here.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Mike, I would just like before I ask you to start sharing your story, I'll just share a little bit about how our relationship, how we got together.
Alrighty.
Both Mike and I are associated with a gentleman here in Milwaukee, a consultant. I've been associated with Chuck Harris for over 6 years now. We run a local program once a month called EIB Excellent Business. And we sort of do the same things. We bring in guest speakers. We talk about how to win, the problems, those type of things. And Mike is associated, knows Chuck quite well. And that's sort of how we got together. We had some conversation. I started finding out what he does in and around, also run parallel to my cost reduction business, as people need to know this. And so that's why we're here today. But Mike, it's all yours. Just start out a little bit about your background, where you live, a little bit about your family if you'd like, and then we'll just go from there.
All right. Well, first off, Tom and Mark, I want to thank you for the very generous invitation to be here and to be able to share with your folks tonight. So it's a huge opportunity for me, but I hope it's informative for everybody and gives them a new path that they can run on that'll make their efforts more profitable and more fulfilling throughout their lives. So, again, thank you very much for that, guys. A little bit about me. I'm an old guy. I'm 67 and grew up. I'm a cheesehead. I grew up in Wisconsin. I actually grew up in a town called Mineral Point, which is the third oldest city in the state. And if you know that that Wisconsin is called the Badger State, it's because of my hometown, and it has everything to do with lead mining and has very little to do with the animal, the badger. But I'll save that story for another day. Um, let's see. I worked my way through college on a psych ward because I was a psychology major. And although I love being a psychiatric aide, by the time I graduated, I realized that psychology was not the field for me. And I went to work for a firm called FPC Securities. And there they schooled me in insurance and securities. And that started me off on a life of like financial independence and training people about finances and things like that. So I hate to admit this, but I dabbled for many years in that field. And then a friend of mine from high school had me join his business where we worked with retirees. And we would set people's estates up so that if mom went to the nursing home or dad went to the nursing home, uh, and I don't know how it is in other states, but Wisconsin can be pretty punitive um, in terms of caring for the confined individual and leaving the community spouse, the person still left in the community, very little. So we called it nursing home strategizing, was setting people's estates up to prevent the state from taking everything in the case of a spousal nursing home confinement. And although we called it nursing home strategizing, the county called it screwing Title 19. So it kind of depends on which side of the fence you sit on that. And during that time, Wisconsin instituted the continuing education requirement that required us to have continuing ed to maintain our various licenses. And so we paid $25 an hour to go sit for 8 hours in a hotel conference room and listen to a guy to maintain our insurance licenses and intermediary licenses, as they're called here. And at the end of 8 hours, I can guarantee you, I've just now learned more about insurance talking with you guys than I learned in that 8 hours sitting there for $200. So on the way home from that, Rick turned to me and he said, we can do this, and we could. So we got ourselves set up to provide continuing education to insurance agents, which not only allowed us to hone our skills and our craft and sharpen up what we were doing, but it also became a marketing tool for the business we had. In essence, it became a training ground for us to train other agents to do what we were doing and then write business through Rick's agency. We had a good, the total necessary requirement for hours was 24 credit hours for the year. And we had a good 16 just based on Rick's business, but to offer the full 24, we needed another 8-hour course. And so I went to work and started studying up on IRAs and KEOs and SEPs and SARSEPs and 403Bs and all the things that existed back then. And so I was the guy who trained on retirement programs. And continuing ed continued pretty well for us till 2004, when the state of Wisconsin allowed people to do all this online. And we were a deal charging only $10 a credit hour, but we couldn't beat $53 or $59, whatever it was, for all 24 credits. And you didn't have to go sit in a hotel room. You could do it in the privacy of your own home or your own office. And that put us out of the education business. So during the run up to the big mortgage meltdown, I got my loan officer's license, started writing mortgages, which seemed to be the thing to do until the whole thing imploded in 2008. But in 2008, I took some training in using real estate inside a retirement program, as opposed to mutual funds and insurance products and things like that. And actually, during this training, my mind was going, "What the hell have you been doing?" My brain was saying that so loud that I could barely listen to the instructor. Because once you see what you can do with real estate in your retirement program, you'd never buy another mutual fund again. So please don't ever tell anybody I sold mutual funds. I won't admit to it myself, but yes, I did at one time. But since then, I've been training people in using real estate and other investments inside their retirement programs. And in 2011, I wrote my book, Live Tax Free Forever Through Your Solo 401k, which is kind of a primer or primer, depending on how you say that word, on using 401ks versus IRAs and the advantages of establishing one and maintaining one for your retirement process. Gives you incredible autonomy, gives you incredible freedom of choice, freedom of opportunity. And it's really exciting. It's amazing what can be done with these programs in conjunction with your business and ultimately with your family. So if we have young entrepreneurs, people have kids under 18, or maybe even not so young entrepreneurs, because a friend of mine is 67 and he's got a 4-year-old. So I guess you don't have to be that young to have kids under 18. But at any rate, yes, it affects your family. It affects your kids' future. It's a training tool. It just encompasses everything, and it's more than just dollars and figuring out tax savings. But that's
Wow.
the dollars are the beginning of it, but the effect is as much as you want to make it and how it affects your family.
We got a couple comments coming here, Mike. I just want to make sure if there's any questions, we just want to acknowledge them. Thanks, Robert. Hey, great job. Transition from a home renter to an income producer.
And an income property owner. Robert.
He's in Canada, so.
Okay. Robert's in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I know a gentleman who's from Jamaica, and he lives here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And he goes around and he finds investment properties for 2 Sikhs from India who live in Canada.
Wow.
So we have a guy from Jamaica finding homes in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for 2 Sikhs from India who live in Canada. So if you're from Canada, apparently the big investment opportunities are still here in the United States. They invest in Milwaukee because they can't really find anything locally to them. And where in Canada they are, I don't know, but they can't find anything that meets their cash flow requirements. So, Robert, you may be investing here after all. So, hi, welcome aboard. Welcome to Milwaukee.
I've got some questions. I know Mark's got some here, but something specific I'd like to ask is we have more in common than our first conversation. My family roots go way back where Cornish miners came to Wisconsin in the 1840s, were some of the early settlers in Mineral Point.
There you go.
And what is it, Christmas Mountain right there? Is that Christmas Tree Mountain or Christmas Mountain?
No, neither of the above, but you may be thinking of House on the Rock.
No, there's a place where it's called Christmas something. I don't, right across it's right near the village of
there's Merry Christmas Lane, and there was a Merry Christmas mine out that direction, which is about a half a mile out of Mineral Point. Yes.
Yeah, and right across the road from that was our family's original homestead.
Okay, then I know exactly where that is, and I know what building that is. Absolutely. Yeah. There's still a stone building there.
Well, that's off the topic here, but I come from a financial background as insurance, securities, mortgages, so we've run similar paths, but you have taken it and utilizing the benefits of 401ks. Now, could you explain what we're talking about here about a traditional 401k and what do you call it? A solo 401k?
Sure. Okay. So we're going to be like mixing terms here very quickly, and I want to maintain our vocabulary so that people listening don't get confused. So let's think of a corporate 401k, which is what most people think of when they think of 401ks, versus a solo or independent 401k. So if I work for IBM, if I work for ABC, if I work for the 123 company, I'm going to be participating in more than likely a 401k. So when somebody says, do you have a 401k? People go, yeah, I got a 401k at work. No, you don't. You participate in somebody else's 401k. So that's like if I'm in high school and I say to my friend, you got a car? He goes, yeah, I got a car. And then Friday night you find out it's not his car, it's his dad's car, and he can't use it. Well, it's not your 401k. It's your dad's 401k. It's your business's 401k. Your corporation, your employer's 401k. So the way those work is you get a salary. When you make a contribution, it comes right off the top of your salary, and that's a salary reduction. Oftentimes, the company will match up to a certain point. So there's the part you put in. I do it so we're on camera here. There's the part you put in. Then there's a company match. And then if the company is profitable enough and they choose to share that, then there's profit sharing. So there's actually 3 layers to that you can participate in. As of 2006, most of those plans, not all of them, but most of them should offer, if that's on this side where you put in your salary reduction, there's also the opportunity to put in to the Roth side. So there's now 2 sides to a 401k. There's what I would refer to as the traditional side. So the traditional side of a corporate 401k is the side where you get a tax deduction or you get a tax break for contributing. Now, a solo 401k was actually designed in 2001. It was passed as part of the Economic Growth Tax Reconciliation Recovery Act. And that allowed mom and pop operations, sole proprietors, small partnerships, businesses that didn't have common law employees. So I'm talking specifically about real small mom and pop operations that they can establish their own 401k. They don't need a third party administrator. They don't have to do a ton of testing. You basically set up a bank account or an investment account, and you're basically allowed to invest in just about anything you want to. There's really only 3 things you can't invest in a 401k. So it's actually easier for me to tell you what you can't invest in than what you can invest in. But this is a 401k that's your own. This is, if I'm in high school and I tell you I got a car, I got a 67 Chevy that I'm driving. It might be a beater, but it's mine. Okay. I'm not participating in a corporate 401k. So I get called the shots. I'm the trustee. I don't need a third party administrator. So really, it's as close as you can get to total freedom in your retirement investing as you can get. So if that makes sense to anybody, that's great. Now would be a great time for some questions. If you need clarification, let's stop here.
Yeah. What are those 3 things you can invest in?
The 3 things you cannot invest in. Number 1 is you cannot invest in collectibles. So things like antiques, coins, art, collectible cars, alcohol. The government actually lists alcohol. I thought alcohol was consumable, not collectible.
Right.
What do I know? So yeah.
And
if you're from Wisconsin, you know who Danica Patrick is, right? Race
Yep.
car driver. Plus, she went with Aaron Rodgers for a while. You can invest in her race car because that's not a collectible car. That's a money-making proposition. That's a business. So you could actually invest in race cars. The 57 Chevy in your dad's garage or grandpa's garage, no, you can't invest in. So that's number 1. Number 2, you cannot invest in S corps. So S corps, and this is S corp law. S corps all the shareholders have to be human beings. So even another LLC or another company can't hold shares in an S corp. So obviously, a 401k can't invest in an S corp. And number 3 is you can't invest in anything that incurs unlimited liability. So if you're an options trader, you can't sell uncovered calls. You can sell covered calls, but you can't sell uncovered calls because theoretically those can incur a liability that's unlimited. If you own the 100,000 bushels of corn in your 401k, then you can sell December corn, but you cannot go to the commodities market and start speculating in commodities. So those are off the board. Other than that, if you want to buy clocks in China and sell them to somebody in Yemen, you can do that, or whatever else you can think of doing.
That's wild.
Yeah. So cryptocurrency, gold, silver, stocks. You can actually own. If your friend wants to open up a pizza parlor and you want to back him a little bit, you can own part of his pizza parlor. Lots of things you can do.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to ask, how did you come up with this idea? Like a solo 401k. I mean, I was listening to your story, but what made you go this direction, Mike? I mean,
well, when you asked the question, you said, what made me come up with it? Again, Congress came up with it.
Right.
Okay. But But when I took my training, I was trained simultaneously in IRAs and 401ks.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of hype, and I'm going to call it hype, about self-directed IRAs. We all have heard about self-directed IRAs. And there is one and only one reason for that, and that's because of money. There is a money trail in IRAs. See, by law, an IRA must have a custodian. All right. So just like your corporate
Right.
401k has a third party administrator, somebody who makes sure the corporation is doing the right thing, a self directed IRA has a custodian. And those custodians charge what amount to be pretty sizable fees. And Tom, you know, from different examples, a 1% fee is not very much until it accumulates over time. And all of a sudden you go, wow, that 1% really added up. Okay. So they charge transaction fees. So if I'm going to self direct my IRA and I'm going to buy a house, I need to have a transaction when I buy the house. I'm going to have a transaction when I sell the house. If I need financing, I'm going to have a transaction when I take out the loan. I'm going to have a transaction when I pay off the loan. So every time I turn around, there's transaction fees.
Right.
Then on top of it, there's maintenance fees.
Mm.
Some of them are very fair, annual maintenance fee, got no problem with it. Then some of them are based on assets under management. Great, I love that. Man, if I was a third party administrator, even if that's 1%, the more money you make, the more money I make, and I'm not doing any more work. So when you have that money trail, you can afford to promote yourself. So there are probably today, because many banks have gotten into this business, but today there are probably around 100 or so custodians that will help you self-direct your IRA. Now, they'll also help you do your 401k, but they won't tell you about 401ks because they'd rather have you in an IRA. And they set themselves up as a third-party administrator, which you don't need anyway, because
Okay.
the government believes that if you're smart enough to run your own business, you're smart enough to run your own retirement program. And so in a properly structured 401k, you are your own trustee and you don't have to have all this administration. So it just makes more sense to me to work in an environment where people have more autonomy, more freedom, and allow them to invest in what they excel at.
Cool.
I got a question for you, Mike.
Sure.
So in a solo 401k, you're the administrator, right? So you don't have to pay all those administrative costs. That
Right.
Tons of money. And you're taking money off the top of your business, right? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Well,
yes,
correct?
you could. Yes.
Okay. How do you fund it? I mean, what criteria, minimums, limits, maximums, having a solo for a business person?
Sure. Okay. Well, let's think of two goals for this. Number one goal is to run yourself a business that can then put money away for the future. And that you would start making contributions to your 401k out of your income generated by that business. So let's say that I'm a doctor and I also teach, but I'm an independent contractor on my teaching for whatever I teach, or maybe I speak and I go around. I've got speaking things, so I'm paid here at the hospital, and they contribute to the 401k for their 401k. All right. Now, as being self-employed, I can also establish my own 401k. So anything I earn here in my own business, I can contribute to my 401k. Anything I earn here at the hospital either has to go into their 401k or doesn't go in at all. Okay, so it's from income that's generated by whatever business you have. So other retirement plans we ignore. It's only income that you generate from your business. Now that's for contributions. Now there are a lot of people who bless you.
Excuse me.
Sure. There are a
We're
lot of people.
social distance, so we're in good shape.
Where's my mask?
There we go. I'll spray here. We'll just.
There we go. So anyway, so there are a lot of people who are still, we'll say, in the cubicle. Okay, so they're thinking about starting a business. Maybe they've got something set up. They've formed an LLC, but they haven't actually taken the step forward. But they've got an old orphan 401k hanging around somewhere. And since 2008, how many people do we know who've been outsourced, downsized, laid off, right-sized? I've heard now. So there's a lot of people out there who have old
Sure.
401ks lying around, or they've been rolled into an IRA, and those are lying around. Well, you can set up your solo 401k even though you don't have current income, and you can roll your old orphan programs into that, except a Roth. If you have a Roth, that cannot go into a 401k. But IRAs, 401ks, KEOs, SEPs, SARSEPs, there's 403bs, some government programs, there's military programs, various pension, all that stuff. If you've got any of that stuff lying around that's just kind of line fallow, you can roll that into your solo 401k, and then you can start investing however you want to in that.
So you have total control. Do those assets come to you? So you're not taking in a portfolio of mutual funds or stocks. You've got the cash, correct?
Well, again, let's keep our verbiage correct. The money is coming to your 401k, not to you.
Okay.
That's distinct. Okay. If
All
it
right.
comes to you, that's a distribution, and now you're paying taxes and penalties. So yes, but in essence, yes, you're correct. That money is coming to your 401k, and you now have control of it.
And at that point, you could take those assets and put it into another asset class, such as real estate or some of these other things where you have total control, where you're not paying the fees, you get a potential higher rate of return. And as profits come in those, so can you use that as those funds or those investments grow? Can you redistribute that and use that to buy more assets? Or
Sure. So let's break this down to what we're familiar with, because we're almost all familiar with mutual funds, because that's where 99.99% of everything is. Okay, so I'm working at the ABC company, and I've got Johnson Lincoln mutual funds in my portfolio. And at the end of the year, I get a statement from my 401k administrator saying that Johnson Lincoln mutual funds paid X amount in dividends and Y amount in capital gains. And that money, it remains within the 401k because that's who earned it. The 401k earned it. Let's put this really simple. A 401k, whether it's corporate, solo, whatever, IRAs also, they're all trusts. So if you know how a trust works and your trust earns money, the money stays in the trust. If your 401k earns money, if it's dividends, mutual funds, whatever, that money stays in the trust and it stays buying typically back more mutual funds because they're all reinvesting. Well, if I have a solo 401k and I go out and I buy a house and I flip that house and it makes $35,000, first off, who owns the house? 401k, right?
Okay.
Yep. Okay, just like it would own mutual funds. If I told it to own mutual funds, it would own mutual funds. But at this time, I told it to own a house. So now it owns a house. Okay. Now I can't do any work on the house because it's restricted and there's a whole bunch of stuff we can go to about that. But I get the house fixed up and I flip it and it makes $30,000 or $35,000. Who made the $35,000? The 401k. So where does that $35,000 remain? In the 401k. Okay. So now I'm pretty sure that real estate's a good bet. I hate the stock market, but I'm worried about inflation. Can my $35,000 buy gold?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. And because it's my solo 401k, I don't even have to keep it at a secured depository like they do in an IRA. I can put that on my own safety deposit box. So again, I get to maintain much, much more control.
So you're limiting fees and all that, those type of things that accumulate with a traditional investment within a 401k, whether it be that's tax savings plus fee savings. That's huge.
That
Right.
is huge. That is huge. But there's even bigger savings. Okay. So, and this is going to get really complicated really fast. So, folks, if you're big on taking notes, now is the time to take some notes. IRAs and actually 401ks can be, but IRAs are subject to a tax that nobody's ever heard of called unrelated business income tax. Unrelated business income tax, or UBIT, UBIT. And that's actually a trust tax. It applies to nonprofit organizations. It applies to businesses run inside a trust, but specifically it applies to IRAs. So if I've got, say, $60,000 in my IRA, and I can buy a house for $35,000, which I can do here in Milwaukee. I don't know what prices are elsewhere, but Tom, you can bear me out on this. I can buy a house for $35,000. I can put $25,000 into fixing up the house. Okay, so I got my $60,000 into the house. I got the rehab into the house, and now I sell it for $120,000. All that money stays in my IRA. That's great. Okay, we can all agree that's great, right?
Yes.
Okay, now let's say I've got $35,000, but I don't have the $25,000 to fix the house up. So I come to you, Tom, and I go, I got this great deal. It's the house where the old lady had 59 cats and only one cat box, right? We all smelled that house.
Oh boy.
I have a personal experience with a house like that I won't share, but we used to have to close the windows in our school in Mineral Point because the crazy cat lady lived down the street, and if the wind was out of the direction of her house on a warm spring day, we had to shut the windows. It smelled that bad. But anyway, so I come to Tom and I go, look, I can get this house for $35,000, and when I get it all fixed up, it should be worth $120,000. But I need $25,000. Okay, does that sound like a good deal to you, Tom? I'm going to borrow money from you at 10% over 6 months. Hard money loan, so you get to be a hard money lender.
On the front end, it looks good.
Yeah, okay. So that's great. So I can buy my house for $35,000. I can borrow the rehab money from Tom, fix the house up for $60,000, sell it for $120,000, and I just made $60,000, right? Minus what I have to pay Tom back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wrong. Because
No.
I borrowed money, I have to pay this unrelated business income tax. I pay unrelated business income tax anytime I borrow money to accomplish something. So for using the single greatest economic tool for me, I mean, what is the best thing to do to make money? It's called leverage, right? OPM, other people's money. That's how this world goes round, right?
Yep.
Okay. I can pay up to 37% of my profit. 37% can come off the top of my profit for borrowing money.
Okay.
Okay. So in that case, it's not going to be quite 37. That's around 30. Let's see, 40. I'll call it 40%. So 37. I'm going to pay around 16%, 15 or 16% on the example I just gave you, because there's a word calculation in there. Of course, nothing is simple with the government. But just for borrowing money, I'm going to pay 16% of my $60,000 profit in taxes. AB is asking no borrowing money.
But money, right?
Okay. And the truth of the matter is, yes, you still want to borrow money. Now, I have a whole presentation that'll walk you through this. So, if I don't borrow money, I make zero. If I borrow money, I'm going to pay 16% of my profit, but at least I still made something, and I'm still going to make more than I could make in a mutual fund, right? What's 16% of 60,000? 6,000, and that's about 9,000. I'm going to pay about. In the instance I just gave, AB, I'm going to pay about $10,000 in interest for borrowing money. but that still made me $50,000 profit on my $35,000. Well, where can I do that in a mutual fund? Say nowhere.
Nowhere.
There we go. Okay. Now, that's an IRA. That's what happens in an IRA. Well, hang on. Somebody just said invest versus borrow.
Right.
No.
That was Ernest. He wanted to know.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I would still borrow. However,
Mhm.
if I do exactly the same thing in my 401k, that unrelated business income tax, for the most part, does not exist. Now, there's ways to incur it, and again, that gets very complicated. But in the example I just gave, even if I borrow money from Tom to do my deal, I get to keep the whole 60,000 simply because it's a 401k and not an IRA. So if I do it in an IRA, I'm going to pay unrelated business income tax. If I do it in a 401k, my profit is 30 to 50% greater for doing exactly the same thing simply because this tax doesn't exist.
Cool. Hey, can I ask you a quick question, Mike? Because
Sure.
you've thrown a lot of things out here. So how does one avoid required minimum distributions?
Okay. Excuse me. I'm drinking soda and it's causing me to burp, so bear with
That's
me.
all right.
Okay. All right. So required minimum distributions, and there looks like on this newest tax bill that's been proposed, it looks like they're going to go up.
I'm not laughing. That was a good. Did you see what Ernest said?
I
You got to
did.
show.
I did.
We're going to put you on the board.
Thank you. Ernest, I appreciate the vote of confidence. Thank you. Okay. So the way you avoid required minimum distributions is to have a Roth IRA.
Aha, there's that word, Roth.
There's that word. Also, even though a Roth IRA incurs this, and I think it's ridiculous. Well, let me use a different word. Egregious. This egregious income tax or unrelated business income tax. So Roth IRAs are not a great place to accumulate wealth because we want to accumulate wealth tax-free. Can we agree on that?
Yep.
Somebody give me a yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
However, Roth IRAs. Wait a minute, I'm a little surprised that this evening was.
He's saying he's liking
Great.
what he did.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you. Okay. But Roth IRAs, there are no required minimum distributions. So what we want to do is we want to establish a Roth IRA sometime before sometime before age 67, because that's when they become really necessary, right? Because they got to be 5 years old when we need them, because there's that 5-year rule. So sometime before you turn 67, you're going to establish a Roth IRA. Now, all that thing I just went through about buying a house and doing that,
Right.
we want to do in our Roth 401k, because that Roth 401k escapes that business income tax. So our profits are 30 to 50% greater in a Roth 401k. But when we start approaching age 72, we can start shuttling money into our Roth IRA, because the Roth IRA, even though it's not excellent for accumulating money, there are no required minimum distributions. And so we can take money as we see fit. We leave it in there as we see fit. And the government isn't telling us to take money out of a non-taxable situation and put it into a taxable situation where it doesn't do us much good. So that's the main thing.
Ernest just put a scenario out. Maybe he can address this.
Okay. Now, Ernest, we're going to go down a really deep rabbit hole here. The reason people don't sink a lot of money into their Roth is because Roth contributions are expensive. So if I'm on the traditional side, and it doesn't matter if I'm in a traditional IRA, traditional 401k, if I'm on the traditional side, when I earn $1, I get to put $1 in. because they give me a tax break for it. They don't tax that dollar I've earned. On the Roth side, if I want to put a dollar in, depending on my tax bracket, if I'm in a 33% tax bracket, I have to earn actually about $1.50 so that they can pull the tax out of it, and then I can put my dollar in. So Roth contributions are expensive. So that's why most of us have money on the traditional side, that we've got money where we've got a tax break for making the contribution, and it grows tax deferred. That's a wonderful thing. But when we go to take our money out, we then get taxed. Now, this drives me nuts. I'm here, I'm say 27, 28 years old, maybe 30 years old, and my accountant is telling me to put money into the traditional side of the 401k because I need the tax deduction in the current year. And then they say, and when you're older and you withdraw money, you'll be in a lower tax bracket. So you'll have lower taxes when you draw the money out.
Oh boy.
How many of you, let me ask you this, how many of you want to be in a reduced tax bracket when you retire?
No way.
You want, boy, I want an IRA that's worth $3 million so I can eat dog food in the 10% tax bracket so I don't have to pay so much. I don't, look, Mr. Accountant, I want to be wealthy enough so that when I retire, my standard of living does not go down like 90% of the Americans. Am I correct?
You're absolutely correct, Mike.
All right. This is the beauty of the solo 401k, because these contributions are expensive. So we don't make a lot of contributions. We make enough to get going on something that we can make money at. Right? So if I put in $1,000 in 2012 and bought Bitcoin at 67 cents a coin, how much do I have today? I don't know, $4 million, $5 million, whatever the hell Bitcoin went up from 47 cents a Bitcoin. Okay. Now, if I have $1,000 in my Roth 401k, can I come to Tom and say, I've got a house over here that I can buy where the old lady had 59 cats and only one cat box. And instead of borrowing $25,000, can I borrow $59,000? Yes, I can do that. And Tom's going to earn 10 to 12% on his $59,000. He thinks I'm a genius. And I'm going 12% on a hard money loan is pretty cheap money, because I'm going to turn right around and make $60,000 on that project. Okay. So knowing what we can do in real estate on that Roth side, we can leverage a very small amount of money into a large amount of money and not pay tax on it and not make costly contributions. Got to get enough in there to get it rolling, but we don't want to make contributions after that.
Wow. It's making a lot of sense to me, just, how you're explaining that.
Right.
So I was in this industry years ago, so I'm not even current on what the current. In your experience in the investment industry, how many investment advisors really know about the concepts you teach about, or CPAs?
Oh, don't even get me started on CPAs. Okay.
Ernest's got another good comment here. You got to show it, please.
Yeah, you can. Thank you. Okay.
And by the way, here's his contact information if you want to get
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, put it up there.
There you go.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. All right. So this is about 6 months ago. I'm eating at a restaurant here in Milwaukee, just down the street from my office. And it turns out the young woman who owns the restaurant is there. And she's a true entrepreneur. She owns 3 restaurants, and she has a real estate brokerage firm. She is her own broker. Turns out she has 2 kids, age 9 and 11. I said, this is fantastic. You can pay each of your kids out of your business, and I'll show you how to do that. and you can pay them up to $12,400 per year. And they don't have to file income tax on it. As long as they stay underneath that $12,400 limit, that income is tax-free to them. So you can sock $24,800 into your family tax-free this year. Now, what are your kids involved in? Well, they're involved in, the oldest one's involved in football. Okay, who pays for his football equipment?
Mom and dad,
Mom
after
and
tax
dad.
dollars, right?
Well, if he earned $12,400 tax-free, who's going to pay for his football equipment?
The
He
kid.
is.
He is.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. And the younger one, she's in gymnastics. Who pays for all that? I do. Not anymore. So she goes to her accountant, and the accountant says, no. Your kids have to be 12 years old. And then you get them a work permit. I said,
Wow.
no, you don't need a work permit for your own kid. No, that's what my accountant says. This is a letter. Let's see if I can get this right. From the Department of Workforce Development.
Yeah.
The people who administer this. Now, every state has a bureau that administers these. I want to confirm that minor work permits are not required for children working under the direct supervision of their parent or guardian in connection with the parent's or guardian's business, trade, or profession. All right. Now, there are some limitations. Can I have the kid loading dynamite onto the back of the truck? No. Can I have her driving the backhoe? No. All right. But I grew up in farm country. If you're old enough to hold a can of corn, you went out and fed the chickens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
then your duties increased after that. The IRS has a limit. Not the states, but the IRS has a limit. Kids under 7, as far as the IRS is concerned, cannot do reasonable work that's worth any value. So the limit is 7 to the IRS. But any kid who's old enough to get around, who can empty the trash, who can
Bust the tables or anything,
bust
right?
the table,
Right.
whatever you need to have them do. So how many people who have their own business have their own home office, even if it's a desk in a corner? Well, guess what? If I have a desk in a corner, my kid's cleaning that desk. All right.
Right.
I get
Right.
home at night. All right. My day ends at 5 o'clock, but I have people calling me into the evening. So I take my phone and I set it on the counter. And when that thing goes off, my kid's job is to come and alert me. So my kid from 5 to 7 is a receptionist.
Yeah.
What do receptionists get paid? Oh, can I pay a receptionist $25 an hour? Yeah.
Right.
Now, I want you to think. The increase for what kids can be paid was passed in 2017. So we had 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and now we're in 2021. Times $12,400, that's $62,000 that kid could have been earning.
Tax-free.
And tax-free. All
Right.
So that's $62,000 that is not in her pocket, that her accountant didn't tell her about, or didn't bother to call the state of Wisconsin or the state of Washington or the state of Georgia or whatever state you're in to make sure that the information she was giving her. Now, do you think that accountant's going to give her $62,000 out of her own pocket for that mistake?
No.
Oh, I bet not. Oh, wait a minute. I said she had 2 kids.
Right.
So it's not 62,000, it's closer to 80,000.
80. Wow.
And these are the little nuances of understanding these vehicles that are available to anybody, right?
Oh, well, see, I've just begun here. Let's take this one more step. So let's say that throughout the year, I figure my kid needs $4,000 for football, birthdays, class trips, clothes, PS2 station, whatever the hell kids need, right?
Mm-hmm.
So $4,000 of that 12 is going to go. What am I going to do with that $8,400 that he hasn't spent or she hasn't spent?
Ernest.
Well, you have income. What can you do with your income?
Whatever you'd like. Maybe
Yeah.
invest.
Well, yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah. But part of that is their $4,000. So that's candy, movies, things like that. Okay, but I've got $8,400. Wouldn't that be great to make a Roth contribution? Nod your heads,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So I can put my kids' $8,400 into my Roth 401k in their account. And then can I leverage that? Can I co-invest that with my other kids' $8,400? And can I co-invest that with my traditional? Now I'm not worried about $1,000 Roth contribution. I just got a tax deduction for my kids contributing to a Roth. Go figure that one out. Now, the income that they earn off that 8,400, that has to stay in there till they're 59 and a half. But at age 18, the contribution can be withdrawn tax and penalty free at any time. So let's say they have $62,000. Does that pay a chunk of tuition?
It would. Yes.
Yes, it would.
Is that better than a 529 plan where the state has control of your money and you're buying mutual fund? Oh, anyway, I just get nuts that this is not more well known. But anyway, that's the state of the game.
And can you explain to us, Mike, why it isn't solo 401ks? Why people don't?
Because follow the money. The money is in self-directed IRAs, and so if you call up any of the big companies that do, and they all
They're not.
They're
not even going to mention this, right?
They don't.
Yeah.
There's no point in them. I'm working with a guy right now, and again, this gets, yes, Ernest, another rabbit hole. You can use your retirement plan to actually fund your business. There's hoops you have to jump through to do it, but yes, you can do it. It's called a rollover as business startup, or ROBS. The great way to do it is through your solo 401k. The really bad way to do it is to do it through your IRA. All right. So he went to a company that touts itself, and how did they have him do it? They had him do it through his IRA because they get to be the custodian. They get to charge him transaction fees, get to charge him maintenance fees. And, instead of schooling him on being his own boss on every aspect, they've got him pegged to them so that those fees keep rolling in.
Wow.
You got my head spinning, Mike.
Yeah, I mean,
my wife and I are in business, and we should have some conversation because we're looking at different ways to take our business income and leverage that even at a higher rate of return and less cost and all that versus some of the things we're already doing, the traditional stuff. So
Sure. So, I mean, here's things like your Roth 401k can buy. Tom, where would you like to retire?
to shoot
right here where I'm at.
Okay. You don't want a retirement home in Arizona or
Way too hot, but no.
okay.
But I have the choice where I want, right?
Yeah. Well, since you won't play along nicely,
That's smart.
I'll tell you about a client of mine. She's a retired school teacher, and she's rolling her 403b into a self-directed 401k. And she wants to retire in Costa Rica.
Wow.
Can your 401k buy land in Costa Rica?
Yes.
Yes, of course it can. Now, can it buy land in Yemen? No. Can it buy land in Syria? No. So any states that North Korea? No. So any hostile state you cannot buy land in. But just about anywhere else in the world, your 401k can buy land. So her 401k could buy land in Costa Rica. And then she could rent that out buy a little cabana and whatever they have in Costa Rica. And she could rent that out for a number of years. Then she can distribute it to herself. Now, if that comes out of her Roth, that's a tax-free distribution. So if you do things correctly, Your 401k, your retirement plan can earn money on real estate, and then it can distribute it to you as your retirement property.
Wow.
These are quite interesting concepts. And going back to your book, and this is part of the principles here. What's the name of your book here? Let me get that banner up here.
Live tax free forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is part of the strategy teach is that how you manage your cash through minimize or eliminating taxes on the front end and eliminating or minimizing taxes on the back end is what you're doing.
Yeah, eliminate it on the back end. Now, who knows who Peter Thiel is?
No idea.
Peter Thiel is an expatriate German. Okay, so he's a guy from Germany. And he and his buddies came over here. They include Elon Musk. And they made a little business called PayPal. And they sold PayPal to eBay for about $4 billion. Now, at that time, it came out that Peter Thiel has over $80 million in his Roth. Now, like most people, the people reporting this didn't know the difference between a Roth 401k and a Roth IRA. But I can guarantee you he did not get $80 million in his Roth IRA. That's almost physically or economically or mathematically impossible. So knowing how Roth 401ks work, he managed to squirrel away $80 million. Now that's $80 million he'll never pay taxes on again, nor any of the earnings that he'll ever pay taxes on again. So let's say he screws up this year and only makes 5% on his 80 million. How much is that? Oh, that's $4 million that he'll earn tax-free and never pay a nickel of taxes in again. Well, it just came out that his 80 million from like 6 years ago is now worth over $1 billion. So if expatriate Germans can come and take advantage of our tax laws, is there any reason that you can't take advantage of our tax laws?
You'd be foolish if you don't.
I can't maybe get you to 80 million, but I can show you how to get a lot more than what you're doing right now. So I've got a couple of clients. They live just west of here, Thomas, out in Hartford.
Yeah.
And they're starting off with zero in their Roths. They've got ton in their traditional side, but they have zero in their Roths. So person A is funding this guy's Roth so that this guy can do a real estate deal and he makes all the profit and this guy makes a little bit of interest. Then this guy takes that profit in his Roth and he funds the deal over here and this guy makes the profit and they're going back and forth, basically swelling each other's Roths. So, this is not the Lone Ranger game. This is strategic partners dealing with the knowledge that is available to people to make the best for themselves.
Wow. Mark, I know you got a hard stop. I want to make sure you got any questions out there because you're going to go do some cha-cha. You're going to have some really hot feet tonight. I bet he does. He does was a dance with his wife every Monday evening. So
yeah, we take class. This has been a real education for me. These are things that they teach in school, right? Not you're always being told to become financially mature. There's just so many things to learn out there. And Mike, we're not even scratching the scratchier surface of what you're presenting here. But what would you tell somebody that's starting a business, and would you get them involved in this right away? I mean,
absolutely.
Okay. And that's what I wanted to find out. Yeah.
Well,
so
first off, what I do 401ks, whoever thought of 401ks touching a 7-year-old's life? What do they worry about retirement for? Okay. But you see how this can affect the family, right?
Right.
So it's because that everything I do in helping people establish something, it affects so much of what they're doing. So if you're starting a business, if you have old retirement money, you can actually use that money to fund your business. That's one way to go. that might not be the way you want to go. You might not want to do a Robs, but if you're starting a business, you certainly want a 401k within that business, even if you're not starting a business. Okay. But everybody should have a business. Look at,
Absolutely, Mike.
I was told the other day these are becoming a thing of the past. Nobody has business cards
Business
anymore.
cards.
Okay. Now, if I have a business, let's even say not I have a business. Now, I happen to not be married, but Tom, you said you're married, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to pick on your wife. Can I do that?
You can.
All right. So let's say she's selling Mary Kay, right?
Yep.
Okay. I guess they have Mary Kay for men. I don't know. I don't think it's got a very big market. So is it something you would want to pick up and start selling, Tom?
No, it doesn't blow my hair back, as they say.
Doesn't blow your hair back. Yeah. I need all that skin cream for my beard too. Okay. So you put a bunch of your wife's business cards in your pocket, and you now have an administrative office in your home, which again could be a desk in a corner, right? You jump in the car and you drive to Walmart or Pick and Save or wherever you do your shopping. Tom, where's the closest Walmart to you? About how far away is it?
12 miles.
12 miles. Okay. So you jump in the car and you go to Walmart and you're standing in line at the checkout and you say to the woman in front of you, "Hey, do you use?" I just couldn't help but look through your shopping cart there. I don't see any makeup or anything like that. Do you buy makeup here at Walmart? Do you buy makeup at Walgreens? Where do you buy your makeup? She goes, "I don't know. I buy it wherever I want." Well, my wife is a skin specialist, and here's her business card. So if you please, ma'am, if it ever dawns on you and you want, if you meet my wife, you love her. Here's her business card. Please give her a call. Do you think that woman's ever going to call your wife? Say no.
Probably
No.
not.
Probably not. Okay. Now, you just drove 12 miles to Walmart and you drove 12 miles back. That's 24 miles. Government lets you write off 57 cents a mile. What's 12 times 57? $6? A little over $6. Okay. You just turned a free trip to Walmart into over $6 in your pocket because you handed out a business card. It's a business trip because number one, you have an administrative office in your home, and number two, you talk to somebody about business.
Right. And
Making a
the
lot of sense.
the reason that's a great point, and the reason I'm laughing, you've got to show Ernest's other comment here. It was a great point you made, though, Mike. Do you see his comment here, Tom?
I'm getting down to it here.
Yeah.
We got a lot of great comments here. We'll have to address them.
This one's a good Mike. You'll appreciate this one. He outdid himself. I think this is the coup de grace of comments here for Ernest, but. I mean, oh my goodness.
Mike, what you just shared, and this is very important with what Mark and I do together, is to get people to think out the box. I've been teaching this for years. The only way you win in a very significant way financially in this, even under current, not even knowing about these particular elements you're talking about, is have a legitimate business where you get substantial tax credits and benefits that's going to put money in your bank that never goes to Uncle Sam. And that goes right in alignment. I encourage in my financial coaching is have a business, whether it be the Mary Kay thing, whether it's doing some knitting and making mittens for here in Wisconsin, but is have a legitimate business, not a hobby, and you can turn those tax dollars and build wealth with. Is that correct?
It sounds silly. Look, I call my book a Party Island book. I could have called it 401ks for dummies, but I didn't want dummies reading my book, and I didn't want to call the people who read my book dummies, so I didn't call it that. I called it a Party Island book.
Cool.
All right. Now, and I'm sorry, I'm claiming that it's 67. It's actually just laziness. What, Tom? I know your name. If I say what's your name? The other guy.
Mark.
Mark.
Yeah.
Mark,
He's losing it. He's losing it. That's okay. I've done that, Mike. I've called someone by their first name, and then 3 seconds later, it's another name. So don't worry about it.
Well,
It's all
Mark,
good.
if I say it 100 more times, I'll remember it. Mark, you got kids?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming most of them are over 18 these days?
Oh, yeah. One's married now, and he's doing his own thing. He's an accountant, and the other one's a junior in college. So, yeah.
Okay. Both boys or boys and girls?
Boys,
Both
yes.
boys. Okay. So, ever take them to a birthday party? Ever had to shuttle
Oh,
them?
yes. Yes. Yeah, we had to do all that craziness.
Okay. So, what's your youngest boy's name?
Teddy.
Teddy. Okay. So
Okay.
you're taking Teddy to the birthday party. He's like 10 years old, right? And you get to the door, and mom's there going, 2 hours. You be back here in 2 hours. If it's not a sleepover, that's about all mom can take, right?
Right.
So 2 hours later, you show up, and Teddy runs out and jumps in your car. And you say, Teddy, how was the party? And he looks up at you and he goes, I don't know. It was all right, I guess. And you go, well, all right. I mean, what happened? He goes, well, all the other kids got to sit at the party table with the cake and ice cream, and they sat me on a hard chair with a bologna sandwich and a glass of milk. Now, Mark, as a father, what would your next step be?
I'd want to know what happened.
You'd want to know what happened.
Why didn't you participate in the party activities? Yeah.
You might say, well, Teddy, were you naughty? And he goes, no, they just sat me there. Now you're at the door, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've just explained how the American tax system works. If you're a W-2 employee, you're sitting on a hard chair with a bologna sandwich and a glass of milk. Nothing wrong with it. It's food and it's nutritious and it's a place to sit, but it's not the party table. If you're in business for yourself, you're at the party table. Why? Because I can write off my trips to Walmart. I can write off my trips to Cancun when I have my annual meeting. I can do tons of stuff. I can have a better car. I can do all this stuff. If I'm a W-2 employee, my employer pays Social Security for me that I don't even see. Then I pay Social Security. Then I pay state and federal unemployment. Then I pay workman's comp. Then I pay state federal income tax. And I pay, if you're in a state that has income tax, I pay state income tax. Then they take out some benefits. And then what do I have?
Very little piece.
Yeah. And I got to make everybody work on that. If I'm in business for myself, I get to write off my gas. I get to write off my cell phone. I get to write off my computer, my internet time.
Right.
Write off part of my electricity. And then I pay myself. And then I pay my tax.
Right.
So you get to be first in line or you get to be last in line. Now, if you're in real estate, it's your party. Because real estate investors get more tax breaks than anybody else, which might explain why more millionaires and billionaires were made in real estate than any other pursuit in this country. So up to you. Do you want to be at the party or not?
And on that note, even umpires are 1099ers. So, you know,
Yeah.
they really are. So,
Yeah.
because I do keep up with all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike, I tell you what, you hit 2 home runs for our audience tonight. Number one, waking people up, new awareness of some tax benefits of what you shared. And the other message I really hope people listen to, if you don't have a business, you can't get to the party. Get to the party.
You're on a hard chair, and I don't care if you're a $600,000 a year earner. If you're W-2, if you're not in business for yourself, it might be a more comfortable chair, but it's still a hard chair with a bologna sandwich and a glass of milk.
Yeah. Well, with that said, Mike,
I love that.
I know Mark's got to go do some cha-cha tonight, so his spouse, who is probably knocking on the door. Let's go, babe.
Well, it's getting out of that comfort zone,
But any parting thought for our audience? We got a lot of comments. We have tons of. See if there's any questions that we want to put out there for anybody.
Let's go to the party.
AB, thank you.
Yeah.
For your comments.
And everyone has the opportunity. Absolutely. Now I'm really hungry. You made Robert hungry. I guess he wants a bologna sandwich.
Thanks, guys, for sharing. Parting thoughts, and then we'll put you in the back room, and Mark can get out and do his cha-cha. So,
All right. No, I just, first off, again, this is such exciting information that I think everybody needs to share. I haven't even begun on like why you should employ your kids and what that can mean to your kids in terms of teaching them values. School, people criticize school. School is great. They're there to teach information, and they do. But it's up to us to teach values. And what better way to teach values than to have a kid at age 7 learning that their contribution to you is valuable, important, and they have responsibility. And it just goes from there. I haven't even begun like all the things you can do with your kids yet.
well, Mike, we're definitely going to have you back if you'd like to be a guest, and maybe dive a little bit deeper. Those type of things around your topic here. I was going to put up last banner here. How do people get a hold of you?
All righty.
Let me put that up here. There's Mike's email address. Jot that down. And I'm going to close out with you, Mike. I'm going to put you in the back room per contract. How were the blue M&Ms?
They were great.
All right. Stay on, and then we'll get right back to you. Well,
That was awesome, man. That was like going back to school and getting educated,
And yeah, he did a great job, and just encourage our audience. The things we've been talking about, the benefits of, we've talked about the eight pillars that destroy your wealth building strategies. Not having a business, remember, is one of the principles which we've been teaching. So hopefully anybody's hearing this, hey, reach out to Mark and I, because we have some avenues to get you in business that we're utilizing ourselves. It may not be what you're looking for, but you don't know until you look. So we're just going to wrap up with that. Thanks, AB. And AB is one of those people that we're associated with. So, Mark, in closing, I know you got to get out that door in a hurry. So,
well, just going to say, I really appreciate what Mike shared with us. And, it's like anything else. There are people out there that they're the best kept secret, and live tax free forever. I'll have to check the book out. Seriously, I think it's worth a read and worth a check out. I mean, you can get it on Amazon, man. So,
absolutely.
I think I like the way he presented his information. He kept it simple for people like myself. I'll use me as the example because I'm not a financial genius, but the way he explained things, did a tremendous job.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. With that all said, we're going to sign out. Mark, great job tonight. There's another great guest on, and our whole goal is to bring new level of awareness so people have a better opportunity to win in life, from the mindset and relationship with money to the skills and the knowledge necessary to, I like what he said, get in the party.
Yep.
Get in the party. I'm going to coin that, Mike.
No more bologna sandwiches. Yeah.
I don't want to infringe on that, but I like that a lot. So,
yeah.
Mark, we're done, bud. Anything
All
else?
right. Awesome. I don't know if I want a bologna sandwich anymore now. I mean, if I eat one, I'll feel guilty.
All right. So we're going to end the broadcast. Again, thanks, Mike, for being on. We'll get you back on again. We are signing off.